Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CR Sports Podcast, Season 5, Episode 11, Garrett, and this is the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, Michael. CR Sports new to Twitter as well as of tonight. Just follow us. CR Sports Guys
We,
is the Twitter
we,
handle.
we went with the CR Sports Guys as the handle, and basically because we're two guys, and that's it. But yeah, that's our new Twitter.
And you know
Had a
how
Twitter before that, didn't really pan out.
yeah, you know how Twitter works. Half the usernames are already taken, so had to be creative with that one. And you mentioned the Twitter handle beforehand. We actually hadn't really tweeted anything on there, and
I think 3 tweets
yeah,
total.
we're
So
gonna we're gonna try to be much more active on this tweet, especially as the NFL playoffs get underway, and just try to boost our following on other platforms.
yeah, just give takes, quick ones. Instagram, it's more of like this is a work that we've done, especially with like broadcasting and games, and like highlights you could say, or like interviews. But Twitter's going to be more of a place where we can just have a conversation with you guys, the fans. So if anyone's interested in following that, and obviously there's going to be other people that probably haven't seen some of our videos. So if you're new to looking at the CR Sports Podcast, yeah, these are the guys. That's me. I'm Michael. He's Garrett. So it should be fun. And we got 2 playoff games already underway. It's Saturday night currently. The Chiefs just beat the Dolphins, and earlier today, the Texans punched their ticket to the divisional round against the Browns.
Yeah, I think this is the third or fourth year now of the 7-team format with just the one seeds getting a bye, and then the one seeds will get the lowest remaining seed, the new playoff format. The bracket's not completely set beforehand. Just getting right into the first game today, we had the Texans really running away with it against the Browns in that second half. C.J. Stroud proved to be the best rookie quarterback by far in his class, and Joe Flacco, he's a nice story and all, but threw more touchdowns to the Texans than to the Browns.
It was an amazing first quarter. It was a high scoring first quarter. Teams were going back and forth. It was like the defenses couldn't stop each other, and you were surprised by this because the Browns were like the number one defense in the NFL coming into the game, and they didn't show up. They didn't show up in that way, and they needed it. Joe Flacco, he had an unbelievable story, as you were saying, but they just couldn't get it done. Those 2 deadly pick sixes is really what cost the Browns the game. But I think this Texans team is dangerous, and depending on who they play, I believe if the Steelers win against the Bills tomorrow, they will play the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and then if the Bills win, they would play Baltimore. So interesting with the Texans. I think the Texans could put up a fight against either of those teams. I'd be especially confident in them against the Chiefs. Baltimore, I still think they have a real shot, but because you never really know about these Ravens, we've seen them be the one seed before, and then they collapsed. So Texans, dangerous team, dark horse candidate in the AFC.
Yeah, you see that a lot with these young playoff teams, kind of like the Jaguars
Yeah.
last year. I don't know if you remember. They were the 4 seed. They beat the Chargers at home with that unbelievable comeback, and they went into Kansas City. They didn't win. They didn't really control the game, but they sort of just stuck around for a while. And I think that's the case with this Texans team. It's a really young team. They're not going to fold under pressure because they don't know what the playoff pressure really feels like. They've already surpassed expectations. Everyone thought they were going to be picking probably in the top 10 of the draft. Nobody was really sure about D'Amico Ryans, and now he's one of the candidates for NFL Coach of the Year. Nico Collins has established himself as a sure number one, and C.J. Stroud, you could already make the argument he's a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Yeah, exactly. So the Texans are in a great place, especially now, and you can imagine for the future. Especially you got you got high draft picks too on that defense. You got Stingley. You got Will Anderson, obviously. So they're in a good spot. They're in a good place. A team that is not in a good place is the Miami Dolphins. They just lost on this Peacock exclusive game. We'll talk about that as well. That's a little bit of a controversy, but they lost. They went on the road. They played in negative degree temperatures in Kansas City. Felt like negative 30 at times with that wind chill, and they didn't show up. Tua did not play a good game, and this was his first ever playoff game. He didn't play last year. Skylar Thompson did against Buffalo because he was injured with the concussions, but disappointing for the Dolphins. And the narrative around them the whole season continued tonight. Against good teams, they fold and they don't play good.
Yeah, the Dolphins really just the one win against the Cowboys was their only legit win against an elite contender, I would say. And the Dolphins in this one, the cold weather, it looked like it really got to them, especially Tua. Tua moves to now 0-11 in games that are played where the temperature's under 40 degrees, which has really started to become just a fact that Tua can't play good in cold weather games. And you mentioned he didn't play in the playoff game last year, so sort of a chance for him to write his own script as an NFL player in the postseason. And he just looked off tonight.
Yeah.
I know the cold weather is definitely a reason why, but the Chiefs were going through the same stuff. They were playing on the same field in the same conditions, and they seemed to adjust accordingly. I know they've had more experience, but the Dolphins, you're in a loaded AFC, and the teams in that loaded AFC are in Cincinnati and Buffalo and Kansas City. So if you're not going to win the division and get the 1 seed, you're going to have to go win games in that kind of weather.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at what Tua's done throughout his career. He was born in Hawaii. He went to play at Alabama, another southern school and a southern place to live. And now he's playing in Miami, one of the most south places you could possibly go in the United States, if not the most. I'm not sure about my geographical knowledge right there, but he hasn't played in cold weather a lot, and it's just apparent every time that he does, Garrett. And watching that game, you go, okay, the Dolphins' defense, yeah, they allowed close to 30 points, right? But it's because their offense wasn't giving them long drives to get rest. They were back out on the field. It was Kansas City controlling the clock, Kansas City controlling the game. And when you're like that at defense, you get tired really quickly, especially in those temperatures. It's tough to get hit at time after time again and get pounded on by Isaiah Pacheco and Patrick Mahomes. It's just tough. So I feel bad for the Dolphins defense because this offense, which we thought was one of the most high-flying offenses in the league, just kind of collapses against these really good teams. And Kansas City hasn't really been a really good team. They haven't been playing good down the stretch. They kind of limped into the playoffs. They haven't been the Kansas City of old. They haven't been the Kansas City team that's won 2 Super Bowls recently. So, and the Super Bowl champions of last year, obviously. But you look at what Patrick Mahomes does in the playoffs, right? And it's this reliable, you know what you're going to get. He's a true competitor. And I know people get mad at Chris Collinsworth and other people for quote unquote glazing him or just amping him up or hyping him up. But he really is a fantastic player, and that was on full display tonight. He didn't have the big turnovers and the bad passes that you see from other quarterbacks in playoff games that can really cost you a game. He's not going to do that to you. And it makes the Chiefs a really tough out, especially when they have really good guys on defense as well.
Yeah, we know the Chiefs' defense has been just so elite all year long, and we know Patrick Mahomes is going to show up in playoffs games as he always does. Rashee Rice stepped up in a big way, the rookie. He's been playing progressively better throughout the year. But going back to the Dolphins side, the Dolphins peaked really early on in the year. You remember that 70-point game they had against the Broncos? It felt like their offense was clicking on all cylinders, and just even if you look at some of the last games they played, even against the Cowboys, and then
Close one, yeah.
last week against the Bills, their offense just hasn't quite been there. It's not the same explosiveness.
22-20 was the Cowboys game
Yeah.
score, and then how many?
Last week they only put up 14. They had 14 and a half, failed to score in the second half. Again, same case today, 7 in the first half, didn't score in the second half. The thing with Tua Tagovailoa is you look at this Mike McDaniel structured offense, it's a lot of quick pitches to the running backs, and it's a lot of screen game. Tua's not good when the play isn't there right away and it's just a quick slant or it's a quick screen pass. When he has to make plays just by himself and scramble, you see how good Mahomes is off schedule. That's not Tua's game. And I felt like the Chiefs' game plan was to take away all the dink and dunk stuff, and it worked to perfection.
Yeah, it really did. And I'm not super confident in Kansas City for the rest of this postseason, but I was confident in a game where the temperatures are like that, and they're playing a Dolphins team that hasn't really proven that they can do this against really good defenses and really good teams and put up points and go in a track meet with the best defenses. So it's tough. Dolphins are in a weird place. Obviously, Garrett, before we did this podcast, you were talking about, do the Dolphins do that fifth-year option with Tua? That's a question that a lot of Miami Dolphins fans are thinking about right now. Obviously, in the heat of the moment, after a game like this, you can imagine most of them are not happy with his performance.
Yeah, I think as a whole you have to look at his performance, and he was a Pro Bowler. I don't think he deserved to be a Pro Bowler.
He had top 5 stats. He led the league in some categories, and he did have really good statistics.
There's no reason to doubt his stats, but you also, the blame has to go to somebody, and a guy maybe Mike McDaniel now, who's got the Dolphins off to such a strong start. It feels like in the months of September and October, he's grabbing all the headlines in the NFL, and then you look up and he's not the coach holding up the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year. That's now 2. I know we didn't have Tua last year, but that's now 2 first-round exits in a row after controlling the division for part of the year. So the Dolphins are going to have to go reset this offseason. The injuries obviously didn't help with Bradley Chubb and the rest of the D-line, but they got some things to iron out before next year.
Yeah, sometimes a cliche that people like to say, but championships aren't won in September and October. It's what happens down the stretch in November and December. How's your team playing? Because that's really all that matters. We saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady when they won their Super Bowl a few years ago. What happened? They caught fire at the end. They weren't playing good in those early months, and then they started playing good in November, in December. They didn't lose, and they won out and played at home in the Super Bowl. So that's really when it matters, and that's why teams can get really dangerous. So it'll be interesting to see, and as a little bit of a segue right here, the game we got tomorrow, the first one, my Dallas Cowboys going against the Green Bay Packers. The Packers' offense has caught fire in a bottle. They've been playing really good. Jordan Love has been spectacular, second in the league in the league for passing touchdowns this year with 32. Obviously, Dak Prescott's the leader with 36 on the other side of the ball for the Cowboys, but this Packers offense is scary. It's dangerous. And against the Cowboys defense that is sometimes doesn't show up in the right spots. Now, granted, at home, they have been a different defense and a different offense and a different team overall, which is just dramatic. Probably the most dramatic change and dramatic shift you see out of any of the teams in the playoffs and especially the NFL. But it's a tough one. They're the 7 seed Packers. They've lost games where you go, that's not a good performance. They've had wins where you go, that's not that good. But you've seen other ones with Jordan Love, and he had 6 games this year with 3+ touchdowns and no turnovers. 6, led the league by most.
Yeah, sort of a similar situation to the Texans that the Packers are in. Doesn't feel like they have a whole lot to lose going into the best home team by far this year in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys obviously playing at AT&T Stadium. They've been a different team, and I think just inconsistency in the injuries of the offense all year long is it's been a battle for Jordan Love to fight through and to see. He isn't a rookie quarterback because he's been behind Rodgers for multiple years, but he sort of feels like this is his rookie year. Christian Watson, Aaron Jones, both banged up throughout the year. It feels like they've been able to get everyone healthy, and you've seen the last couple weeks where their offense has just looked like it's a different team, and they've elevated their game to a new level. So that's why I think they can compete in this game. It's going to be tough to win because they allowed 30 points to the Panthers, a team that's getting shut out every other week. Their defense isn't where it needs to be. Jair Alexander, he's a stud, but
It's questionable, I believe.
yeah,
Same with Watson. Him and Watson are questionable.
yeah, the 2 of them might not even be playing, and so I think everyone agrees if the Packers are going to win, it's going to need to be a shootout. But I do think the Packers offense can contend. I just think the Cowboys defense is going to be able to get more stops than the Packers defense.
Yeah, I don't think this is a walk in the park for the Cowboys as a 2 seed. It's really not. Because of what Jordan Love and this offense has done, they've become explosive and just like have these big plays with Jaden Reed, especially a guy, I think he's a rookie and he just came out of nowhere where he's getting these big plays for this offense that you haven't seen throughout the year. So you look at that and you look at Dallas, you got to make sure that Stephon Gilmore's all right. His shoulder popped out last game. He's obviously been a stud, lockdown for them at times in their secondary, but this is a game the Dallas Cowboys can't lose. On paper, they're the much better team. They are the better team, and it's at home. It's in their home environment, white out in the stands. Dak Prescott's had an MVP season. He's top in the MVP race with Lamar Jackson, obviously. But you look at Dallas, and you look at their path. I know this wouldn't be a lot of teams' approaches, but they're probably saying we're just focused on this one game that's tomorrow. But if you look past this, the Cowboys have a real chance for the first time in like 27 years to make it to the NFC Championship game. Something that I haven't seen in my lifetime as a Cowboys fan, which has been brutal. So if they were to make it there, it'd be a successful season in my eyes. The media obviously is very critical, so we'll see what they think. But Dallas needs to win this game. It's just obviously it is. It's a must win. The Packers, on the other hand, they're saying if we win this is great. But like we made it to the playoffs. This is Jordan Love's first year starting. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. You got to feel good if you're a Packers fan. Got to shore up that defense. But I think that's where Dallas can take full advantage of this game. It's tough to stop CeeDee Lamb. It's tough to stop this Cowboys offense. If you want to double CeeDee Lamb, they got Brandon Cooks on the other side. They got Jake Ferguson up the middle. And Tony Pollard has actually been playing better the last couple games. So Dallas is the favorite. They're clearly the better team. They can't lose this game.
Yeah, I agree with that. They can't lose. I think the Cowboys are going to come out strong. I think they'll win. I think the Packers are going to offer some resistance, sort of make it more of a game in those middle quarters, the second and third, but I think the Cowboys will end up winning by 2 scores or so. But
What's prediction? I think 31-17. Dallas.
yeah, I think that's a good prediction right around there. I would say maybe 34-20, 34-23, around there. I think the Packers are going to be able to put up some points. But you mentioned it feels like we're getting to the point where it's every year now. The Cowboys are really good during the regular season, and then they get to the playoffs, and it's been a different Dak Prescott. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
if he can step up his game, I know in their big games this year he had 1 or 2 against the 49ers. I know he played bad, but overall he played better against the elite teams of the NFL.
Yeah, the one bad one, Garrett, was against the Niners. That was brutal. But besides that, he's been a different Dak Prescott. And I'll let you continue to what you're going on to say, but they're in a different spot this year. With if they were to win, they play their next game at home. They haven't had this position in a long time.
Yeah, and I know you can probably attest to this better as a Cowboys fan, but personally, if I was a Cowboys fan, I'd say, all right, the program, the whole organization, we're in a good spot. It's time to go win playoff games. I'm not satisfied with winning the division, getting 10+ wins. We got to put our name Dallas Cowboys, America's team. We got to put our name in the NFC Championship and in the Super Bowl.
I agree, and I think it's laid out there. As I was saying, I'll go into it now because we got the Rams and the Lions tomorrow night, the game after the Cowboys. Stafford going back to Detroit. Goff playing against the Rams, who said you're trash, and they wanted to get rid of him. They said, Jared Goff, it's like the meme in Toy Story where I don't want to play with you anymore. That's exactly what happened. They gave the Rams to get Stafford. They gave up a lot, and Goff was like this extra side piece, and the Lions are saying, "Oh, he's our guy."
Yeah.
So it's a really good game. Kind of, you couldn't script it any better, is what people have been saying, the script writers of the NFL. But it's perfect. It's going to be cool, and I know this isn't really like an upset pick right now because it feels like everybody's picking the Rams. But I feel confident in this Rams team. Not on their defense so much, but on their offense. I think Matt Stafford, Puka Nakua, and Cooper Kupp, they're too tough to stop. And then you look at Kyron Williams. What has he done in the backfield? He's been amazing. So the Rams have a really potent offense. They've gotten better throughout the year since Cooper Kupp has come back too. I know he hasn't put up crazy numbers like you've seen in the past, but I think the Lions are a little bit too inconsistent in games. I think Dan Campbell's a little bit too of an emotional coach. And I don't think that when the lights are the brightest, the Lions shine the best. I think that they're more of like a 1 o'clock game on Fox with the B or C broadcast group on there. I think that's when they play really good football. I haven't, obviously, you're saying this because you haven't seen it from the Lions in forever, but this is the first time they won the NFC North since that division changed. So I think the Rams are going to win this game. And then it obviously has the Rams going to San Francisco in a game after that, which is another divisional game, so that'll be cool to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Lions. I think this is gonna be a back and forth game of the playoffs. At least game. Shouldn't say game of the playoffs.
Script in the playoffs.
Game of the wild card round. I think is what this is gonna end up being. Feels like the matchup that everyone had circled coming into this weekend is like that's the one I need to be on my couch watching. Sunday Night Football. Gonna have the A team with Tirico and Collinsworth on it. So the storylines are obviously there as you mentioned with Goff and Stafford. Dan Campbell finally bringing his team. It's gonna be the first home playoff game ever at Ford Field. The first home playoff game the Lions have had in 30 years. So you know the place is going to be rocking. Can the Lions step up and answer the call? I think they do. I think just all the energy. Dan Campbell's going to have his team ready to play. And I think Jared Goff is going to play good enough for the Lions to win. But this feels like a pickup matchup to me.
I'm not confident in Jared Goff at the end of the day. I'm confident in Matt Stafford. That's how I'm picking this game. Quarterback is the most important position in the NFL. We all know that. And when you have a quarterback that's just sometimes too inconsistent, and especially throughout this year where you go, wow, Jared Goff, there's some plays that you just go, what is happening, right? He still is that guy. He got better from the standpoint of he wasn't as bad as he was like 2 years ago. But at the same time, how confident could you possibly be in Jared Goff? He's not a guy that's really proven to you that he can do anything. Obviously, that really good Rams team made it to the Super Bowl a long time ago, but that was a stacked roster all around him. And it was really just like a great system by Sean McVay. And Matt Stafford, you won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and people are forgetting about that. This Rams team, they are good. Their defense has changed, so when people say it's basically the same team, it's not. They have like a weird defense. Aaron Donald's like one of the only guys that was on that team, so it's a different defense, but this offense is really good. And Kyron Williams stepping up is the big X factor for me. I think that now that they have a run game with him, it makes it really hard to stop that offense because Sean McVay, he loves to run play action. And with a great run game, play action is perfect. That's exactly what you want with a play action, a perfect run game to go alongside it. And out of the backfield, Kyron Williams can catch the ball too. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, he's certainly taking the offense to a new dimension. I like Jared Goff in the dome a lot better than I like him in a game like we just saw in Kansas City. So I think he's going to come out throwing the ball a lot. I think the Lions are going to be aggressive. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if either team won this game, but I'm just going to pick the Lions at the end of the day.
All right, Garrett, your Steelers going into Buffalo. Game got postponed. It was supposed to be played tomorrow on Sunday at 1 o'clock on CBS. Instead, Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, because of weather and conditions, she moves it to Monday at 4:25.
Yeah, you saw the pictures of the Bills Stadium on X there, just the pictures of an absolute blizzard. As a Steelers fan, disappointed. Remember that Colts-Bills snow game we had, I think it was 6 years ago, where
Got robbed of
it was just absolutely insane. It was like a foot of snow on the ground. And as a Steelers fan, who we are obviously outmatched in this game, the Bills were at one point 10-point favorites, which is huge for a playoff game. So the bad weather just favors the grit and grind of Pittsburgh Nation more. and the blizzard I think was going to help us out more. The weather's not going to be perfect. They're moving it back one day. They're going to be able to clear a lot of the snow off the field, but the wind's still going to be there. Josh Allen, I think we can all agree, has a stronger arm than Mason Rudolph, so throwing the ball downfield probably going to be more in the interest of the Bills and the Steelers. But what we've seen from the Steelers the last 3 weeks with Rudolph in that 3-game win streak, which is why they've been successful and why they're in the playoffs, has been an absolute two-headed monster of a run game. Najee's been over 100 yards the last couple weeks. Jalen Warren doing his part, and then Mason Rudolph's making timely throws. He's making the throws that Kenny Pickett couldn't make, that Mitchell Trubisky couldn't make, and he's making enough plays where you can't just put all your guys in the box and try to stop the run. He offers enough of a threat. And I know Pickens didn't have any catches last week in that rain game, but the first 2 weeks he's lifted sort of Pickens and Deontay Johnson back up and just revived the Steelers' offense and gave us hope.
After all that, Garrett, it's a great story, but I'm picking the Bills to win this game, and even with it moving back, I think it's even more in the favor of the Bills. But the Bills are the better team, and without T.J. Watt, it's tough because he's really the heart and soul of the defense. He's a great player, the best player you have on your team, and without him, with that knee injury, I think it's hard. So we'll see if the Steelers can put up a fight. I think they definitely can. I would take the Steelers if I was betting them in the plus 10.5. If that was the line, I would definitely take the Steelers because I think that run game with Harris and Warren would be terrific against the Bills. I think it's tough to stop. Najee Harris has come on, especially the offensive line has gotten better, run blocking, and I think it's not going to be an easy game for Buffalo. I kind of see this as the same thing of Dallas and Green Bay in the sense of, okay, you're both supposed to win, but the Steelers have a good defense. The Steelers have a good run game. It's a little bit different with the Packers. It's more go through the air, and they like to score some points, and they don't have that great of a defense. And the Steelers they don't have that great of a quarterback in a passing game. But they got a shot. They can make it close and competitive, but I am going to take the Bills.
Yeah, T.J. Watt being out absolutely just kills the defense. Minka Fitzpatrick is coming back. I know he's missed the last 3 or 4 games, I believe, so that's going to be a huge boost to the secondary. Hopefully we can stay up and at least stop the run game, make this Bills offense one-dimensional, and then you just hope that Mason Rudolph continues his play, maybe even steps up a little better. I have to pick the Bills even as a Steelers fan. The metrics just point to them in many ways. They're hungry. They've had some early playoff exits for their liking the last couple of years. So Steelers, again, I'll probably agree with you. I think they can keep it maybe a one-score game lower than 10, but the Bills are probably going to win.
And then the nightcap, Monday Night Football. The game of the century, Bucks and Eagles. No, it's one of the worst playoff games, I think, going into it that you could possibly imagine. Eagles absolutely have been punched into this playoffs. They clinched a while ago. They were 10-1, and now they're 11-6. They went 1-5 in their last 6 games. It's been a true and total collapse. And the injuries that they sustained last game against the New York Giants are going to affect them. A.J. Brown is not playing in this game. He got hurt. He deleted all of his pictures of Eagles gear on Instagram. So there's turmoil there. He's crying. He's not happy. Eagles fans are upset. It's all collapsing in Philly, and it's like the foundation is like it's like one still is still holding up this team, and it's this playoff game. If the Eagles win this playoff game, all those Eagle fans are going to be saying, "Fly, Eagles, fly! Jalen Hurts to the Super Bowl. Nick Sirianni for Coach of the Year, and let's get A.J. Brown back." But you know how it works in Philly, Garrett, and I know better than anybody that those fans immediately when something goes wrong, they turn on their team, and that's what's happening right now because it's been an awful and pitiful 6 weeks in Philadelphia for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think it's going to get worse. I think the Bucks aren't a good team. They beat the Carolina Panthers when they needed to win by 9-0. I don't trust Baker Mayfield in a playoff game at all. I don't trust this Eagles defense in a playoff game at all. Their defense has been awful. They haven't been good at all. That's their real issue. Jalen Hurts seems like he's had like an injury all year, and I don't really understand what that is all about, and no one really does. So I think at the end of the day, it's 2 not good teams going up against each other, but I got the Bucks. I can't say I picked Philly when I saw the Giants due to them what the Giants did to them last week. The Eagles still could have won the division at that point. They didn't know. Dallas was down at one point 10-7 against the Commanders. And the Eagles were down 24-0 against the Giants. So it's rough. It's rough if you're an Eagles fan, and a lot of Eagles fans right now aren't even picking their own team. They're not confident at all in the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, to me, it's obviously significant. It's a playoff game, but it feels like the winner of this one's just going to lose in the next round. These teams neither of them seem like they have much of a future in the 2024 playoffs. So, I, I, this game is it's sort of a pick 'em for me, just like the Rams Lions.
Yeah, I think it's 50-50 though.
I'm picking the Eagles just due to the playoff experience, and it feels like whenever you bet on Baker Mayfield, he doesn't show up.
No, I have zero confidence in my pick.
Baker Mayfield's good when no one's watching and everyone is just completely throwing him out of the picture and thinks he's no good at football. That's when he shows up. He has 2 or 3 good games. Then everyone's like, "Look at Baker. Watch out for this guy."
Rams Raiders last year was like his game of the year.
And then he seems to sort of just fall off a cliff like he has the last 2 weeks or so. The Bucs are at home. I wouldn't be surprised if they won, but their offense the last 2 weeks just really hasn't been there. They just stumbled into the playoffs like the Eagles did, just relying on the fact that the Panthers can't move the ball or score on offense. So
but the Eagles' defense is really bad, Garrett.
The Eagles
it's really, really bad. Like Mike Evans is going to be able to get open. Baker should be able to hit Mike Evans, and he's one of the most underrated receivers in the league. So
yeah,
that's my confidence in them.
You looked at the Eagles when they were 10-1, and it felt like they were the best top to down team because of just they've been able to hide sort of the secondary and the missteps they had because the defensive line was playing better, and now the defensive line hasn't been playing as good, and the defense is just getting scorched. I mean, Darius Slay and James Bradbury are just no threat to any opposing wide receiver. I'm not going to say the offense has been good, but the offense has been good enough to win games. You can't let the Cardinals score 30-plus points, and the Eagles' defense did just that. That's the reason they didn't win the division. So I'm taking the Eagles, not to move on anywhere past the wild card round or past the divisional round after I think they're going to win this week, but just like the Dolphins, they're going to have some stuff to figure out in the offseason.
Exactly, and I think the real problem is embedded deep in the Eagles. They have one of the best offensive lines that hasn't been playing as dominant as they were earlier, and you're going to be losing Jason Kelsey. I think Jason Kelsey retires. He was going to retire, and then he came back. Everyone knows for this year is like, oh, we lost in the Super Bowl. Let's get back at him.
Yeah.
If they won that game, he's gone. He doesn't come back this year. And I think he's going to retire after this year. It's been a tough season for him, and obviously he's really good, but tough season for the Eagles.
An underrated departure is Shane Steichen, now the coach in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And Nick Sirianni just doesn't seem like he has.
I don't think Nick Sirianni's the
grip on
guy.
the offense.
No, and you listen to him every single week. It's we need to clean this up, and you see Jalen Hurts and he goes, yeah, like it's all right. We're gonna get better from this and learn from this. You can't, Jalen, especially in Philadelphia. You cannot be saying that this is like, oh, this is gonna happen. We're gonna build from this, get better. He's gonna get you're gonna get destroyed, and the fans will turn on you quick, and they already have. If they lose this game, it's gonna be ground zero, rock bottom in Philly, and it's gonna be awful. Everyone's gonna be getting called for. See ya. Let's bring in Belichick. Let's bring in a new quarterback. Let's bring in something like they don't Howie Roseman. They don't wait around for stuff to happen. He's a good GM, and he'll go out and do something. So you look at Jeffrey Lurie and this Eagles ownership, and they're going to be looking closely at this game and see, do we get embarrassed on Monday Night Football in the wild card round and go 1-7 in our last games? Like, yeah.
1-6.
1-6.
1-6
Yeah.
last 7. Yeah, I don't mind Jalen Hurts and Sirianni the way they've been treating the media, just because they understand they're not playing well. They're obviously frustrated. They're not up there smiling, but you got to back your own team and you got to believe in your guys. You can't go up there and say, "Oh, our team's no good. We need to trade this player, get rid of this player."
No.
Playing
I'm just saying. I'm saying they're saying the same exact thing every single time. And what also happened is, it was an emotional move to make Matt Patricia the defensive caller in like the middle of the season. And ever since that, their defense was bad before, and it got even worse. So that move by Sirianni was because of the fans, because of all the pressure saying the defense sucks. We need to make a change. And he decided to change it to Matt Patricia. And you've seen him outside of New England. He's been awful wherever he's gone. So it's nothing's working for them. But at the same time, they can go erase all those questions and then get a healthy A.J. Brown back for a divisional game, and maybe they can like move on and like actually come together as a team. I don't see it personally, but I also don't see the Bucs. I'm not confident in the Bucs, but I see such a terrible Eagles defense and an offense, frankly, that hasn't been that good. They just haven't. They haven't put up points. And when you're judging teams on how they've played recently, you can't be confident in the Philadelphia Eagles, and I can't expect them to win this game.
Yeah, it feels like the Bucs locker room's a lot more together right now than the Eagles. The Eagles feel like everyone is just in a completely different direction with where they
Yeah.
see this team going. So I wouldn't be surprised whoever wins this game again. Probably not going to go very far in the playoffs. The Bucks, it was sort of a rebuilding year. They just happened to be in the NFC South and somebody had to win it. And for the Eagles, it looked like they were going to go back to back, and now they have some major things to change.
Yeah, the NFC East for 17 straight seasons, I believe, hasn't had a repeat winner. Kind of cool thing right there. The Cowboys win it this year. But this is wild card weekend, super wild card weekend, as they like to call it. Roger Goodell's favorite thing. But
Hasn't been too wild so far, but
no, been blowouts. So we'll see how it goes Sunday, tomorrow. Cowboys, Packers, 425. Nightcap on NBC Sunday Night Football is the Rams and the Lions. And then on Monday, because of the delay, it's Steelers, Bills, 425. And then 8:15, you got Monday Night Football, Eagles, Bucks. That'll close out the Super Cold Wild Card weekend. It'll close out our episode. Make sure you listen to our next episode, which will be next week for the divisional round. And we'll just do this for the playoffs. It should be fun.
yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Hopefully, we get some more enjoyable games. Maybe a 7-2 in the AFC, possibly. But we'll see. I'm excited to sit back and watch some more football.
Follow the new Twitter, everybody, at CR Sports. Follow us on Instagram at CR Sports, and have a good night.